Well,
that's fun.
That's the official start to the podcast. I don't know where that's coming from.
Well, then it's always hard to eliminate.
Do you know what's really fun about our podcast? That this continues to happen, and we have, at this point, no idea
where it's coming from, how to stop it. Yeah. Well, it's also the fun of doing a live show. That's why you tune into a live show. See, if this were just a regular old podcast, you know what we would do?
We would edit it out.
We'd just edit all that out.
But we don't have
to. We'd be perfect professionals, and you wouldn't have to worry about any of that. So you found it now?
Yeah.
Oh, so are we going to pretend that we're starting it? Let's pretend we're starting over.
So
everybody
really
wipe their brains, Men in Black style.
Are we really doing this?
Yeah, okay. Everybody wipe their brains, Men in Black style. We're starting over. Here we go.
Hello.
That's so much better.
Nothing to see here.
Oh.
So welcome to SiftPop.
Yeah.
So Aaron and I are doing, it's Friday. That means that our fans have supported us to do 2 days a week on our live recording of our podcast, Shoe the Dough. And Fridays is our SiftPop segment where we cover pop culture, movies, TV, video games, all the stuff that's kind of going on in the pop culture world.
It's our second official full live episode of SiftPop. Thank you for joining us on Mixlr. Feel free to comment there if you have any questions or any insight into what we're talking about. Last week we did a rewind episode.
Yeah,
our very first edition of SiftPop 3 years ago was with Jeremy Scott, who is now Mr. CinemaSins, and it's really interesting to listen back to us talk about the Avengers and how you can hear, if you listen to the show, and by the way, it's still in the podcast feed, you can hear him lean towards some of those sin-type moments as we talk about the Avengers. And it's just interesting to see, now that's what he does on a weekly basis.
But now we're
or more
back.
Than that. Yeah.
We are back from vacation, so we're going back into full swing. So this is entirely interactive. Like Aaron said, if you're listening live on Mixlr, you can chat with us. Or if you're streaming from the internet, you can always tweet us at Aaron and Danae or at Shoe the Dough, whatever you want. And then, of course, later on, if you're listening in the podcast feed, please consider rating and subscribing the podcast so that we can kind of keep jumping through some pretty fun hurdles here, including like the numbers of those who are subscribing just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's fun. So if you know anything about SiftPop, it also branches from the Critic, the Geek, and the Girl. And so it's hosted by the Critic, the Geek, and the Girl every week. I'm the Critic. Danae is the Girl, and this week we are joined by John from Jogwheel as our resident geek. John, how's it going, man?
It's going well. Thank you for having me back on the program, or I guess the first time, because I was on the Critic and Geek and Girl, and this is slightly different. But,
you were on video last time with us.
Yeah, it's the evolution of the Critic, the Geek, and the Girl and SiftPop kind of merging together to become this weekly live podcast. And we do miss a little bit that video element. We would love to continue to figure out a way to do both, broadcast this live video to, a Google Hangout and then live audio to Mixlr and just let people tune in or
there
Periscope or whatever.
There goes Aaron. He's getting ahead of himself again.
No. I love the idea of
it's
people
not time yet
being able to just interact with it however they want to. If they want to watch the video feed from inside the studio, they can, all that kind of fun stuff. So, but yes, sorry, getting ahead of myself. You don't have that option right now. You just get to hear our lovely voices.
Well, it works out great for me because I don't have to comb my hair or put on nice
or put on clothing. Is that what you said?
Or put on nice clothing.
Oh, okay. Whoa. All right.
Whoa.
I live in New Hampshire. I have to wear clothing year-round. It never gets too warm.
John, tell us a little bit about Jogwheel, your YouTube channel, and kind of what you do so people know where to find you.
Sure. I feel like I made a living telling people what I do because there's so many things involved. I produce 15 separate web shows across a few different YouTube channels. Collectively, they have about 1 million subscribers, but these days that doesn't matter much. I got famous way back when microwaving stuff, and these days, much like you, Aaron, I review movies, a show called Movie Night. I also do gaming Let's Plays, and I have another show where I just read spam emails and make fun of stuff and sign up for all those like Viagra links and stuff. And
oh my goodness.
It's amusing. I have a really good time. I've been doing YouTube as a full-time job now for, I think, 8 years. And it's a blast. It's like the greatest job in the world. It really is. So
Yeah.
Pleasure to be doing it, and a pleasure to be with you guys again today.
No,
Glad
we
to
love
have
it.
you back.
Yeah, we loved having you on the show. Love your insight. Love how you care and have a passion about film and good
Well,
storytelling.
I mean, if you don't have a passion for something, like what's the point?
Right.
Like
completely
agree.
agree.
You have to have some emotional, I don't know, connection and some passion for what you're talking about. And sometimes I get hate comments for that. Like, why do you care so much about these movies? Like, well, why not? What if I didn't care? Why would I bother talking about it?
I totally agree. Speaking of passion about things, Danae, you're laughing. Did you see something in the comments?
Oh, yeah. Well, we're doing SiftPop today.
Yeah.
The Critic, the Geek, and the Girl reviewing various items. We talked about movies and things like that. And one of our fans in the chat room already said, fingers crossed for discussion about A Deadly Adoption. Which
Was that Lifetime movie parody?
Have you seen the trailer for it?
I haven't seen the trailer,
my
but I know what
gosh.
you're talking about.
If not for Hulu, I would not have seen the trailer either. But I've been watching, and yeah, there's a pretty amazing trailer out there. So that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, that is a great suggestion. Maybe we'll cover that like next week. Is the movie itself out yet?
Oh no, we don't need to wait to cover it. We can just breeze right over it. We can kind of go, this is a must-see trailer. Because anything that Will Ferrell is in, you just can't quite take seriously.
Right.
But he doesn't break that serious character role from what I can tell.
Is it good or is it obviously over the top?
Well, I can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, feel free.
So my wife saw the trailer and convinced me like this is going to be a Lifetime movie parody. So that like really overwrought domestic stress, divorced marriage kind of situation, but with Kristen Wiig and with Will Ferrell. And then my wife tuned in to watch it because it aired live on Lifetime earlier in the week, and she's like, "This is terrible. It's not fun at all." And it turned out that it's an earnest Lifetime movie.
Yes.
And it was only the trailer that sort of tricked people into thinking it was going to be a comedy.
It's not. I don't think that they were trying to trick. I think that the trick is that we cannot put Will Ferrell into a serious role. That's just not something that our brains have been trained to do.
Right. So everyone just sort of misunderstood. Like, well, if Will Ferrell's in it, it has to be
exactly.
fun.
Well, it's not just Will Ferrell; it's Kristen Wiig too. I mean, those are comedic actors.
I think that they probably had a conversation about it. Like, let's just give this all we've got, and if it doesn't work, we'll just say that it was for comedy. Because they.
But that is a completely fair strategy, though.
I do have a similar experience that happened many years ago with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind when I first kind of had my experience with Jim Carrey in a more serious role.
Right.
And I loved that movie so much. I thought he did a fantastic job. And of course, since then, he's done multiple roles that show his dimensions as an actor.
Oh, his role in Man on the Moon is one of the most spectacular acting performances I've ever seen.
I completely agree with you. But I haven't really had that experience with Will Ferrell.
There is the one. What was the one movie I really loved him in? A Stranger Than Fiction?
Oh, that was good.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah, he was really good in that.
I totally forgot about that. Good point.
Yeah. And
that was a good movie.
It was a very good movie.
I think at some point in every comedian's career, they make that shift towards dramatic acting and they try to do a more serious role. And some have transitioned better than others. Adam Sandler did A Punch Drunk Love, what was that, 10, 12 years ago?
Yeah.
And even though it was well received, it wasn't successful and he sort of degenerated back to what he did.
Degenerated is the right word.
That is the right word.
Whereas I think other actors like Steve Carell, I think, made that transition beautifully.
That's a good
From
point.
The Daily Show to movies like, what's that movie that I love so much with Dane Cook is in it?
Well, I love I know the one you're talking about, but I love the Way, Way Back. I think he's incredible in the Way, Way Back.
That was also really, really good. That was fantastic.
But yeah,
he was great in it.
I'm having trouble thinking of the one you're thinking of, but it was really good as well.
Dan in Real Life.
Yeah,
Dan in Real Life.
That's it.
Yes. Was that the one with the pancakes? Was there like a stack of pancakes? This is just
That was the movie. The movie poster was him on a stack of pancakes.
Thank you. See, this is why.
Was that the one with the pancakes?
That's why
I
the
know
girl.
what she meant.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's him on a stack. I don't know if they eat pancakes in the movie either.
No.
It's just sort of an image.
And the BDG in the comments mentions the Little Miss Sunshine. He says the one with the little girl in the van is the one But Little Miss Sunshine was, I think, Steve Carell's first kind of endeavor into those more dramatic roles.
Yeah, for sure. But that movie sort of had that Wes Anderson sort of quirky comedy vibe involved in it.
Yeah.
Whereas the movies he did later were completely completely straight.
That's true.
Yeah, he's had a pretty good run so far.
That entire bunny trail is thanks to our live commenters on
That's
Mixler.
why I love having a live show with people
Just
tuning
another
in and-
invitation. Every Friday at noon is our SiftPop on Mixler, which is where you can chat live. So
And
another invitation.
Chew the Dough long term is intended to be on every day at noon. Right now we're on Tuesday and Friday. So if you want to check in with us at noon, Tuesday and Friday, that's when we are there. All right. So thank you for that bunny trail. Appreciate that. In the comments, we were talking a little about passion. People who see my office, who know me, know my passion is Pixar. I love the storytelling they do. I'm not alone in this. Obviously a lot of people have fallen in love with their movies. And they
$10 billion worldwide. $10 billion.
Wait, for this movie?
No.
Obviously not for one movie. For all 15.
Oh, I was like, good Lord, what happened overnight? Oh my gosh. I slept too long.
No, I mean, when you think they've only made 15 features, but $10 billion is an astronomically large amount of money. Technically, it's not one franchise.
I thought you said okay.
If it were one franchise, that bests Harry Potter. That's better than James Bond. That's better than Star Wars. They have done very, very well consistently for 20 years now.
And I think people do see them as a franchise. I think that's what's interesting about them is that Pixar is a franchise, even though they're telling original stories, which, by the way, how great is it that they're still committed to telling these original stories?
Can I make a quick interjection there on the original
absolutely.
story part? I'm calling it now, and we'll have it on record. Inside Out will become the first animated feature to win for original screenplay.
Do you think so?
I do. I really do.
I think there's
at the very least, it's certainly going to get nominated, and I can confidently say that now. It'll get nominated. I think it has a good chance to win, though.
I am telling you at this point, and again, there's still a lot of the year left, but I vote in the Critics' Choice Awards every year, and I do take part in the nominations. It will certainly be part of the discussion for Best Picture, not just Best Animated Picture, but I will make sure it's part of the conversation for Best Picture, and I hope it gets some nominations.
I mean, is it already a lock for animated feature?
It feels like it, doesn't it?
Pixar has another movie coming out this year, which is the first time they've had two releases in the same calendar year.
Right.
The Good Dinosaur in late November. So, I mean, that could turn out to be even better. Pixar has a tendency to one-up themselves. But I feel like this is already sort of locked in. I don't think Minions or any other – I'm trying to think of animated features coming out this year. I don't think anything else is really going to give it a run.
The only things that ever compete seem to be the more obscure kind of film film festival type editions that find their way into the category. Those can kind of compete sometimes because they're a little more arty, and there's attraction to those kind of things in the voting public. But no, I think it's pretty much a lock for Best Animated, and I would love to see it in some of the greater categories as well. But yeah, I think that gives away a little bit of how we felt about the movie, but not that that's much of a mystery.
I don't think you can hold it back. I mean, there's there's some movies that when they come around, they have like a instant ripple effect. Mm-hmm. And for me, I always know it when I start hearing it from certain groups of friends who start talking about it, and inviting people to go and enjoy the film. And even though, Aaron, you are a undisputed Pixar fan, and yes, if you guys were in the studio right now, I could pan around the room and we would see Pixar
paraphernalia.
Everywhere. In fact, there is actually to my right about a 3-foot tall cardboard cutout of anger, sadness, and disgust. And a 9-foot cutout cardboard that says Inside Out and has joy in the middle, like with her hands extended.
Yeah.
Because he found them in the dumpster outside of the movie theater and paused for a moment before going and taking them out. So kudos to you for doing that because they shouldn't be thrown away. They're awesome. But yeah, he's a huge Pixar fan. But despite, Aaron being a huge Pixar fan, I'm also hearing excitement from different groups of people, not just extreme Pixar fans.
Right.
So
I like to call this the mom test.
The mom test.
If it's it's also a good measure of who's famous as a celebrity. I remember a lot of the conversation last week with Jurassic World is Chris Pratt an A-lister? It's well, does mom know who he is yet? When that happens, the answer is yes. And I think with Inside Out, it sort of passes that same test where is this the type of movie mom would see and mom would like and tell her friends about? And generally, if it hits that demographic, it's sort of saturated and it's successful. And I absolutely would be like, Mom, go watch this movie. You're going to love it.
I would too. And I would say dads and I would say anyone to go see.
Yeah,
but
really.
because I think that I'm not a parent, but I feel like if I had kids, this movie isn't just fun to watch, and it doesn't just have great colors, and it doesn't just tell a story well about, how thoughts work and the whole world they developed about, how the human emotional center works and how it relates to our lives. Not only did they do that really, really well, but I think that they've really helped to identify how a kid can relate to their emotions and begin to understand how they do impact your every single day. And that tool, I feel, is a really good thing for a mom to be able to have a conversation with a child about, or a parent be able to have a conversation with a child about, as they're trying to figure out all these raw feelings that are coming around for the first time.
It's as if Pixar just made the world's best educational video.
Yes.
This
should be shown in puberty classes.
Right?
Right?
It feels that way.
You're going to feel weird things. Here's how we handle that.
Well, that's the sequel.
And I think I mentioned this to you, Aaron, earlier in the week on a YouTube comment, that I felt like as brilliant as Inside Out was, I feel like they almost sort of missed an opportunity by giving or by setting Riley, the main character, at, 11 years old. Whereas I think had they made her 13 or 14, the possibilities to really explore that early adolescence and puberty would have been so much more interesting.
Oh, I think it's happening. I think it's coming.
But don't you think?
And if they go that route with the sequel, I will be very, very entertained.
Me too.
There was that moment at the very end of the film where she meets a guy at a hockey rink, and they snap cut inside of his brain, and it's all hands on deck, and his little emotions are going completely crazy. And that was such a short but poignant moment, and it was like, oh, I want to see more of that. That sort of hormonal, out of control, we have no idea what's going on with our bodies, visualized with all of the brilliant animation work that Pixar does best.
I agree.
I like that we're moving into specifics now, and let's talk about some of the things we loved. I will jump off of that and say that I love that there are so many small, nuanced moments in this movie, and some of them in 5 seconds are more insightful than entire films. There's this moment, the one I keep going back to that I love to talk about is where Joy knocks over a box of facts and a box of opinions. And she's like, oh no, I got all these messed up. And the train guy says, that's all right, happens all the time. In 5 seconds, there is such insight into the human mind in how, it's just, and there's stuff like that throughout the entire movie. And I think is one of the reasons I loved it as much as I did, because I never went more than a few seconds without something else engaging me and making me think about my own brain and how I think and how I feel and how that interacts. And I think the movie does that very well.
I agree. There was definitely a lot of introspective reflection that this movie sort of forces the viewer to embark on. As you're watching this movie, you're thinking to yourself, what would be my core memories? What are the things and events and memories that shaped my life in such a way? And you begin to draw these own parallels with your own life. And that creates such a strong emotional resonance with the picture that it affected me in a way I did not think a Pixar movie could when I'm almost 30 years old. But it was very impressive in that regard.
Similarly, like what you were saying, is that Pixar just created a language for anyone who's seen this movie to be able to connect to. So now I can engage in a conversation with you. Like you just said, core memories. Somebody who might not have seen this movie yet is like, okay, what are they talking about? But instantly I can relate to what you're saying, and I can communicate with you differently about things that maybe impacted me in my life. In fact, this morning I said my Goofball Island is off the charts right now. Somebody who hasn't seen the movie might not understand that means I've got this like super goofiness right now. And even though contextually you can probably understand what I'm saying, there's just a language that Pixar created for generations to come to be able to communicate to each other, which is fantastic.
And, you talk about those are called islands of personality, and you just think about that for a second, how your core memories create islands of personality. Again, just a little part of this movie, but how deep and interesting is that idea, and how true is that to our lives, where these things that happen to us create who we are in this very real way, and how fragile that is. And it's just,
The depth of this movie continues to go on, and how they build it at the very beginning, kind of showing how it all starts, and then the complexity of a human being is sort of shown, but it's not overwhelming. And I know that the part of that is because you can't get too distracted. For example, after the movie was completed, I thought, now how fun would it be if the two main characters that they focused on weren't joy and sadness? Let's bring fear and disgust to the front and see what happens. And I'm sure that they would love to do that, which I'm hoping that perhaps they make some additional shows. I don't know, some kind of a fun show to watch where we can kind of continue with these
You
characters.
want like a weekly television show.
I don't think it'd be a bad idea because they have so much dynamic going on, even if they just stay with emotions, which personally I would love to see them do chemical reaction too. So like, this is the emotional epicenter of somebody. What about the chemical one? So, all right, now estrogen just took over. Okay, testosterone just kicked in. You know, like how does that work? You know, so there's other ways to explore the diversity and the complexity of what happens inside one human. And again, because they've created this world of helping people to understand how to communicate what's going on the inside, I think it would be really valuable for many, many different kinds of people. So those are some more of my thoughts.
And I was going to say, on a filmmaking level, I think it was really impressive that Pixar was able to unload all of this exposition, which was very heavy in the front half of the film, almost effortlessly. Like, you're being explained nothing but exposition the first 20 minutes of the film, but it never feels overbearing at all. You're learning about these things, and they keep it interesting and dynamic, and they try to relate and connect to things that we're already familiar with. So even though they're creating this whole new language and this entire world that these characters explore for the next 90 minutes, it doesn't feel like it's just Amy Poehler telling you what happens and how it works.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It does a great job at not being narrated. You know,
Yeah.
it technically is voiceover, but the visuals tell the story so
good.
much more than the words do. And that's when I see a movie that relies on narration, it just feels lazy to me. And it feels like one of those things where, okay, I know I need to know information, but can you find a more engaging way to tell me that information? And you're absolutely right. Pixar does that beautifully right at the beginning. And it's not a surprise. I mean, Pete Docter is so good at telling stories visually. And, you know, those first 10 minutes of Up, you know, that everybody,
Right.
you know, raves about. He's done this before. He
Yeah.
gets how to create these, you know, storytelling moments through visuals with, you know, without needing the words. And I think that's beautiful.
I was thinking about if I was going to describe this movie to somebody, and I suddenly realized that it's a very diverse film for so many reasons, as we've been talking about, maybe you're picking up on. But one of the things I wrote down is that this is a story of a hero's journey home. If you think about the whole movie from Joy's perspective, but it also allows you to really relate to multiple different characters really, really well. But you would think that it's like, oh, it's a story of a girl and her emotions. You know, that's another way to describe it. But I really feel like this film is about, you know, a character's journey home.
It's kind of a buddy, like a trip, you know, like a road trip buddy movie in some ways.
It's one of those films where the main character gets lost and has to return home some way. So, which is a really interesting thing to realize that this movie is also about. So I wanted to kind of share that thought too.
Yeah, there's a prodigal aspect to it.
Yeah,
you know,
really.
as well. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Any other thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, what are some other things? Is there anything we can talk about that we didn't like? We've been raving, which is not a surprise, but is there something, you know, that you pull out that you go, maybe this wasn't up to snuff or this didn't work?
And I think one of my favorite scenes is the dining room scene where the first glimpse in the movie where we get to see inside other characters' heads
Yes.
and see their counterpart emotions and how they're characterized. They look the same. They have the same color schemes. Anger is like a big ball of red fire, but in the different universes and the different brains, in the mom's head, she's wearing glasses and is polite, and I think wearing like a blouse, whereas the dad's version of Anger has a mustache and is the leader of the troop.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really interesting juxtaposition. But at the same token, I also feel like that entire scene sort of played right into stereotypes that like the dad is just aloof and not paying attention, and the mom is sort of daydreaming about a Brazilian, helicopter pilot. So while I really liked the humor, I felt like it was a touch beneath the other more clever writing that Pixar is going for.
Seemed
I
a little
agree.
on the nose to you?
Not on the nose, just I feel like that sort of portrait felt lazy to me. Like, oh, the mom
It
is dreaming
perpetuates
about younger men and the guy
Yeah.
is dreaming about football.
It perpetuates stereotypes.
But
And
I
I think
gotta tell you, as the husband who is aloof occasionally and has to tune back in, like I've been there. You know what I mean? It's a stereotype for a reason.
I completely agree with it, and it definitely connected with my wife and I. We both looked at each other and laughed our butts off.
yeah.
But there was something about it, like they got the Riley character so well and all the nuances of her personality
Right.
and how these things affect her, whereas the dad was just boiled down to what, huh? And I guess I kind of wanted to see a little bit more development with those separate characters. It was really interesting every time we saw somebody else's emotions at
I will
work.
completely agree with you. And I've thought about this a little bit afterwards, that if I wanted to go back for something that I think I was missing, it is the insight into other people's minds, the other adults, the other characters' minds. That was so fun for me. But I wonder if they just knew we can't spend a lot of time in that. Otherwise, our main story will never go anywhere. So they had to be restrictive. The movie changed for the moment that we zoomed into somebody else's mind and began to see and experience their control center. I was like, it went into another level of interest for me. Immediately, it was like just ramped up, and I was like, yes, this is fun. And I loved that there was an element of maturity that was shown when the filmmakers decided to put a different person in the driver's seat. Like Sadness was in the driver's seat of the mom, but they're all equally present, at the control center, all these different emotions. They were all pretty well put together, showing to me that there had been a lot of experience in that mother's life, and that even if Sadness were in the driver's seat because they just moved or whatever's going on in her life, they were still trying to find balance. And then that was also what was shown in the dad's life. They all seemed to be pretty fine, It was just we caught him in one of those moments whenever he was thinking about something else, and I think
that was a really quick way to telegraph to the audience, like Riley's character is still figuring stuff out. Her emotions are literally running all over the place.
Yeah.
Whereas over at mom headquarters, they're all sitting down.
Yeah.
And they're buttoned up and they're ready to work, and that they're treating it like a job, and they're very focused.
It was really cool.
And that's like a very visual metaphor for maturity and sort of figuring out life as we get older.
You guys, we totally failed. We were supposed to think about something we didn't like, and now we're talking about what we did like again.
But that's this movie. I mean, you can find those little things, but with this movie, you will inevitably end up talking about why that is and how that does actually work and how, it leads to other conversations and interests. And so it's amazing.
All right. Well, I did want to mention something else while we were thinking about it.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
That's fine. I mean, are we done talking about Inside Out?
Well,
because I had a few other things I wanted to say.
We're probably going to wrap it up here in just a second because we've got other things to talk about. But I just lost Jonathan, so I'm trying to get him back.
Oh no! Okay, so you get Jonathan. Here's.
Oh, he's calling, guys. Should we answer? Hello.
So let me say this while you work on getting Jonathan back. I'll just talk about this just for a second because I did want to touch on this.
Hello.
Hey, you're with us.
Welcome back.
It's okay.
I was just getting ready to talk a little bit about the emotion of a movie about emotions and how that impacted each of us. I can speak for myself. I've seen this twice now. I've seen this twice. The first time I welled up 3 different times and actually cried once. The second time I saw it, I cried at the same place I cried before. It hit me again in the exact same way, but I didn't well up in the other places I had welled up. I found that experience really interesting, and the depth of it enough to hit me a second time like that was, I think, noteworthy to me, that there are those moments. And I personally don't want to give them away. I will just say...
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's not spoil because there were... Yeah, I also had a similar emotional release. Did you have one, Jonathan?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I cried.
Did you?
This movie was beautiful, for sure.
Okay, well, when the podcast is over, we need to talk about what our moment was. I would like to know.
Sure.
I have a curiosity.
I think we all know there was one moment towards the end of the second act that I think hit everyone watching this film.
Okay. It was probably the same one then.
Yes.
And
I can't imagine what else.
I don't know. There were a few times.
3 moments for him. For me, there was just 2. So I'm curious to hear about the third.
I think I'm 2, and I think I got a little bit teary-eyed on one other, but I managed to batten down my emotional head. I will tell you
about that.
Okay, let's talk about this. So I have realized my people at the helm of my little emotional epicenter, my control room, is disgust and anger. I'm pretty sure. Joy is in there for sure. I definitely feel joy. But sadness is someone that I don't really like to talk to very much. And fear, I try just to pretty much ignore that. So that was interesting, too, to kind of go, oh, okay, this is how I operate.
But how interesting for you, and I know you've...
Don't give anything away.
I'm not going to give anything away, but how interesting for you that the movie itself, the main theme and message of the movie, was something that you were combating while feeling emotions about the movie.
I'm an 11-year-old girl, guys. I am an 11-year-old girl.
It's just really interesting.
That was a really cool thought, though. I'm glad that got brought up.
Yeah, I found overall there were many, many moments where the movie just went deeper than I expected it to. It just felt so resonant and deep, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful film.
Cool.
Completely agree.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit before we head on and do some rankings of our Pixar stuff. I wanted to chat a little bit about how you can help the show. Whoa, Danae.
Guys, that was so loud. My bad. I shouldn't be allowed to push buttons.
Yes, you're doing fine. You're
Thank
doing
you.
good.
Thank you.
So, no, what I was going to say was, if you want to support what we do, the more support we get at Patreon, the more shows we do during the week. And a lot of the stuff we do on Tuesday can kind of find its own place, like Pop Culture has on Friday. So,
yeah, if you want to see Shoe the Dough expand, please consider giving $3 to $10 a month or more, whatever works best for you, at Patreon. We're at patreon.com/Aaron and Danae. And we do fun things. I mean, the people at Patreon, they get to have special perks. Mm-hmm. We also like to make sure that everybody gets perks. And so that's why we do giveaways from time to time from different sponsors. Like right now, we're doing a band giveaway. Mm-hmm. So there's just fun stuff that we try to always keep you up to date on. But if you want to see us keep going, please consider supporting us on Patreon.
It's incredible. We're humbled by it. We love it. And thank you so much for making this a pretty amazing experience. This brand new live radio mixed with recorded podcasts.
Yeah.
Hybrid mashup that we're doing.
Video in the future.
Yeah.
We just have a lot of really fun ideas, and you're making it possible. So thanks for catching the vision with us. I agree with Aaron. Thank you. Like, it is humbling to be able to tell people that this is possible because our fans support us. And so thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, so let's talk about, now that we've seen this another amazing Pixar movie, let's talk a little bit. Are you still there, John?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
I was just about to say, I love Patreon as a service, so I'm glad to see you guys are doing well there as well.
Are you on Patreon too?
Yes, I am. I signed up early or late last year, and it's been fantastic. It's just such a great way to sort of bolster my income and let my fans help me in a really tangible and immediate way. And
yeah,
like you guys, I'm extremely humbled by the whole thing, and it's fantastic to see more and more people discovering this service and helping the creators that they want to support.
And I love it too because, if somebody's, listening to us and they're fans of us and they love us and they're supporting us at $3 a month or whatever, and then you come on the show and they're like, I like that guy. I love his opinions. I need to go look more. They can throw $1 every month your way too. You know what I mean? It's like, it's small enough chunks that you feel like you can support the things that you love and it doesn't kill your bank account,
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's such a great service, and it's wonderful to see more and more creators adopting it as a revenue stream, and it's awesome that more and more viewers and audience members are actually supporting it as well. So
yeah, it's an incredible experience. It ties back into the passion. It's something that if you're passionate about something in life, we live in an age right now where there's a lot of ways to connect with other people who share a passion, and so that's just it's kind of a neat thing to be experiencing.
And it's super exciting to be able to work together towards those passions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad you're using it too, John. It's been a great thing for us. It's allowed us to do this. We actually could not do this without that support.
Yay!
So nice. All right, let's talk best Pixar movies, and
that would be Joy. In the
yes, Joy just took over the controls. I saw that happen.
Yep.
So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to know, first of all, from Danae and John, let me know, do you already have in your mind, before going to Inside Out, have you had in your mind how you rank the Pixar movies? Like, have you gone through that thought process and actually put them on paper, or just thought about it, or how have you thought about Pixar films as far as that goes? John, let's start with you.
I'm obsessed with ranking and listing and numerically rating everything I've ever seen.
That's amazing.
Every movie I've ever seen has a number rating, and it's available at my Letterboxd profile. So yes, going in, I knew that I had a favorite Pixar movie. I knew that I had a second favorite, and I was not expecting Inside Out to sort of really push its way up to the very near top of that list.
Yeah, I had that same experience where I walked out going, wow, it may actually be battling there towards the very top of the list. I wasn't expecting that.
Right, exactly.
So good. So yeah, I have an absolute list as well. I keep a adjusted list every new year. I rank my top 41 movies of all time. So
Why 41?
41 is just a number
It's
I
his
landed on.
favorite number.
It's my favorite number. It's a beautiful number. It looks really pretty with all the the lines.
This is crazy
And
talk.
it's a prime number, which I love. I love prime numbers.
How often does that list change year to year?
It changes. Well, there's new additions, and newer movies tend to find their way onto the list. Danae is obviously not a list person. Disgust has taken the controls.
Disgust is I am rolling my eyes, and it's not because it's because I cannot imagine doing that in my own life. It's not because I think you guys shouldn't do it. I think it's awesome that you do. I wish I.
No, it's definitely, it takes a different type of personality.
Yes, exactly. I am not
one
that way.
based on numbers and sort of quantifying, and I really enjoy that from a weird obsessive sort of statistical hobby of mine. I love to rank and list and chart things.
That's awesome.
That don't need to be listed or charted or ranked, but
it's
just
something that you
I
do. I think it's great. I love it. I just can't.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
For me, I would be like, okay, yeah, how do I feel right now? And then in 10 minutes, I'm like, I feel like maybe it's a different one.
And I think that goes to what John's question was about how much does it shift. As far as the
Right.
movies that have been on there before and they shift, it shifts. There are certain movies I'll go back, especially the second year, after I've seen them a couple more times, and I'll go, oh, I put that way too high, and it'll come down several notches or off the list, I was a prequel defender, especially episode 3, and that has come down my list the more and more I've, looked at it. So it's interesting to see.
It's interesting you brought up episode 3 specifically, because when I rewatched it last year for a big Star Wars review episode I did on my show Movie Night, I was actually like, hey, this is better than I remember.
Well, it's definitely better than 1 and 2.
Went back up my list for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the best of the prequels, which is, saying not a lot. But it's interesting you picked that film because it was similarly one that I had ranked sort of a lot lower.
Yeah.
And then when I rewatched it when I was older, it was like, hey, this actually, it turns out better. And it's interesting to hear other people's process on how we reevaluate our own opinions.
Exactly.
3 or 4 years removed from when we first or saw a film a second time.
And so that's what we look to do here with the Pixar movies. So, Danae, I'm assuming you're not a list person, so you haven't done this before.
What?
So
Rank
your
things?
Pixar movies, your favorite Pixar movies.
I only do this because you ask me to. You and I think maybe Justin, my husband, he has asked me, like, is it, one of your favorites? So then I'm forced to think about it.
So let's start with you.
I think it's in my top 3.
Okay, what would those be?
I think they're WALL-E and The Incredibles. And then Inside Out. But if I'm not thinking in depth on it, I just dump information so fast. It's like, oh, cool, that was a great movie. Now I need to be focusing on the fact that my friend needs to help me, and or I have to go over to my friend and go to a meeting and be involved in her life. So like, it's just, I don't know, it's not very important to me. But WALL-E really had a great impact on me whenever I saw that one, and The Incredibles was really fun for me too. So
those are good choices.
Thank you,
John. What about you? Where was your list? Where do you think it is now?
I think Toy Story maintains its top spot. I think for a lot of reasons. I'm younger than you guys, so when I saw that movie as a younger kid, that was sort of like a reawakening. It was like, wow, this is a whole new world of animation. I've never seen computers do this before.
Do you consider the Toy Story series kind of one entity, or do you separate them out?
I see them as separate films. I've never liked the second one nearly as much as I think public opinion. I think the first one is near flawless. I think the third one is really, really powerful. But yeah, if I had to rank Pixar films, I'd probably put Toy Story number 1, Inside Out at number 2, and then WALL-E or Up in the third spot, which I both really, really like.
Oh, yeah, see, I forgot about Up.
Even though I just mentioned it earlier.
It's fantastic. Just the first 20 minutes alone, and then after the first 20 minutes, it's like, wow, this movie is already fantastic.
My list is very personal. I had Finding Nemo at number 1. That movie impacted me greatly as a father of 4 boys, and I think hit me at a time in my life where I was
Fish really meant a lot.
Where fish meant a lot to me. I just love fish.
Again, that's sort of interesting. Is I saw Toy Story when I was close to Andy's age, whereas you saw Finding Nemo when you were close to Marlin's age.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whereas I saw Finding Nemo when I was like 15, and it was like, all right, I guess.
And I related to a robot.
I thought Dory was really funny, but I didn't really connect at all with like the parent side of things at all.
What does that mean?
What, that you like Wall-E?
Well, like, you guys are like, yeah, I related because this character was my age, and I related because I'm a father. And I'm like, I related to a robot.
Well, you relate to his curiosity, his hopeless romanticism, and sort of his yearning for love, I guess.
Yeah. I think
it's probably the same reason my wife loves Wall-E a lot.
Probably
he's like this adorable romantic at heart, and
I think I've ignored a lot of emotion my whole life, and he was kind of like coming to, like, he's a robot without emotion, sort of expressing life in his interesting way. Maybe. I don't know. Keep going, Aaron.
No, that's fine.
So you said was, and Nemo has been your number one since I've known you for the last 4 years.
It has been my number 4 movie of all time for as long as I can
Which is
remember.
Super impressive if you like lists, people.
No, it really, when someone tells me that, like, I take that. That's like, wow, you're serious.
So serious.
No, I think that movie is perfect in so many ways for me, emotionally, storytelling wise.
If we talk about it too much, he may cry.
I cry every time I watch it
because it's so real.
The other one I cry every time I watch is The Incredibles, which sounds a little weird to people because there's not a lot of emotional resonance. But when Dash runs on the water for the first time and gets to explore his powers like he never has before and fulfill his purpose, I tear up every single time. There's something so joyful about that moment that I just love.
So is that your number?
What's
your rank?
That's been my number 2. Then Wall-E, then Up, then Toy Story 3, then Ratatouille. I'm sorry, I'll stop there. I do think Ratatouille doesn't get mentioned enough, though. That's why I wanted to go down that far. That is an incredible film.
It's really rather solid. I think it's
a
definitely
rat
one of the
that
most
cooks.
underrated films in their catalog.
Also in the underrated category is Bug's Life. I still love Bug's Life. Anyways, now though I have to look at Inside Out, and I can't put it above Finding Nemo. I just can't yet. I'll have to experience it a few more times, but I think I have put it above The Incredibles. I think it is in at number 2 right now as far as I experience, which is really surprising to me.
Where does number 2 then rank on your full list?
Probably somewhere around 12 or 13. I have probably 4 Pixar movies on my overall list and probably about 5 Hitchcock movies.
I'm going to call it, guys. This list conversation needs to stop.
It's so nerdy, but I love it.
I can't do it anymore.
If the girl is going to be part of the Critic, the Geek, and the Girl,
then she needs
has
to be able to have veto powers. That's right.
All right, that's fine.
No,
we'll have it off. We'll have it off podcast.
You guys should geek out off podcast.
You know what we could do? Here's what we're going to do. You just hold on. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to finish this podcast, live podcast.
Yeah, we are.
We're going to leave it. We're going to leave it recording.
We're going to leave it up on,
and
so
we're going to have those continued conversations.
We're going to geek out for hours,
and we're going to put it up on Patreon for our Patreon supporters. So it'll just be an extra. That is just going to be an extra thing for anybody that supports us at any amount. You can listen to the geeky list.
For those of you Patreon supporters who don't like lists, I will be enduring the conversation and making interjections to talk on behalf of all of us. So
nice. All right, we will move on.
But we do need to move on to the upcoming movies that we wanted to discuss.
Yeah, a couple movies came out this week. I have seen them both, and we like to do a thing that we call Need to Know. And so Danae watches the trailer and then asks the question she needs to know about the movies that came out this weekend.
So I watched the trailer to 2 movies, Ted 2 and Max. So we can discuss that.
All right. So which one do you want to start with?
I don't know. Jonathan, what do you think?
Let's start with Max, because I know nothing about this film.
Okay, so do you want me to just kind of give a brief
What
overview?
You saw from the overview of the trailer, what you think this movie is.
So what I believe the trailer is showing is that there is a military family that has one son away at war who has a military dog named Max. And the younger brother is really into video game playing and not really as connected to the family and maybe his world as everyone is around him. And when the brother in the military passes away, he inherits Max the dog. So it's kind of going to be, as far as I can tell, a journey of a young adolescent boy as he's trying to kind of wrestle with the emotions of losing a family member, having a dog that isn't necessarily liking him at the very beginning. He has to build a relationship with this character. And I think it's going to really be a touching story about, how adolescent boys can kind of work through that stuff. The friends he has, it looks like he's got a diverse group of friends. There's a couple scenes where you can kind of see like his social life. He's got some pretty solid friends, which is always good to see in a movie that someone's got, a good group of people that are, there's a girl, for example. This young kid is expressing that like the dog doesn't like him, and she says, well, I can show you a couple things if you'd like. So someone decides to go on a journey with him and try to get this dog to kind of connect with him. And then there's more to the story too that develops. I picked up on a lot of things in trailers. This is why I don't like trailers, because I pick up on too much.
Yeah, that's a whole separate conversation we could have off podcast too.
But I feel like I kind of got a good idea of what the people would expect. I did not look and see what the rating of it was. Do you know?
PG.
PG? Okay.
It is PG, mostly for war themes,
right.
Those kind of things. John, what would your questions be after hearing that description?
Is it a family movie, like real tear-jerky, emotional, sort of Marley and Me type dog film?
Ooh, I don't know if the dog is going to die.
I wouldn't compare it to Marley and Me, not giving away anything that
you've
might or
seen
might
it,
not
right?
have. I have seen it. I saw it last night. It is definitely meant to be a family film, tearjerker. It's very much a morality tale. It's interesting because it reminds me in a lot of the review I did feels a lot like a review I would do for a faith-based film, where it feels like, there's obviously the morals are very, very important to it,
but
and sometimes outshine the production value,
right?
So to speak. So, although having said that, the story is actually told pretty well. Like it's an interesting story.
So,
yes,
question
Danae,
for you.
Need to know.
Because I didn't see the movie, but you have, having just watched the trailer, how accurate am I? Am I
very
pretty
accurate?
Good?
Yeah, very accurate. Yeah.
So my question, I guess, would be like, who wants to see this movie? Is it the family together, or?
I think somebody who loves to go to a movie that echoes their beliefs in family and country and loyalty
and dogs.
And dogs, sure.
Dog
absolutely.
lovers.
Dog lovers, those kind of people will enjoy seeing this because it will speak to those morals that they hold very, very dear.
Jonathan, pop in if you've got another question. I've got one I already wrote down.
I do not know. Max was the kind of movie that did not necessarily pique my interest, but it's something I think I would probably pick up when it comes to home media.
That's actually my question was, do you think it's worth the time in the theater, or would you say wait for it to go to your home theater?
This is definitely a wait for the rental. There's no reason this needs to be that you need to pay big screen money to see this. The quality isn't that good.
And perhaps this is sort of a selfish knock against movie theaters these days, but for me, I go to the theater for that more of an experience, the louder, bigger Mad Max Fury Road type experiences.
Yeah.
Whereas like I have a 92-inch projection screen at home, so
yeah, you're good. You're good.
It doesn't bother me if I have to wait. Like
right.
My home theater is rather enjoyable.
I just feel for the people who mean to go see Max but accidentally buy a ticket to Mad Max.
Oh, different. Very different.
I feel like that's confusing, right? To have two movies in the same cycle with a very near title.
So you ready to go on to the second one?
Yes, absolutely. Let's go on to Ted 2.
So Ted 2, what I can take away from just watching the trailer.
Sorry, I just saw a comment. Somebody's like, "What? Marley dies?" Sorry. Spoiler alert.
I thought that was sort of the whole point of that film.
I think so.
That's why I didn't go see it, because you could tell by the trailers it was leading up to this old happy dog like living a perfect life. And anyway.
You'd prefer to be Phoebe, not knowing the end of Old Yeller.
That is exactly right. I am Phoebe. So Ted 2, I did see the trailers for Ted 1, did not see the movie. So if you don't know, it's a world where it's kind of like what's the duck?
Howard the Duck?
It's like a Howard the Duck type thing, where there is a totally animated, real talking creature that makes no sense in our world but lives in our world. Ted is a stuffed animal. And we're going off of 1 and into 2, where he gets married and wants to have a baby and has to prove that he is like a person to the court system.
There you go. That is a quick sentence summary of that movie.
But automatically, just based on... So first of all, I want to tell you, I clicked on the trailer. What's it called?
Ted 2? Oh, you clicked on the Red Band trailer.
The Red Band trailer.
Oh, those are the best.
So I didn't even know these existed, but let me tell you.
I almost only watch those.
I understand why. It's so much more of an accurate representation of what you're going to be involved in. So you've got like these regular trailers that you see where they don't even use some of the words.
Well, it's interesting watching you watch the trailer for Ted 2, not the Green Band trailer.
The red one.
And watching you watch the the one that's, dumbed down. It was interesting because I'm like picking out, like, since I just saw the movie, how much of it is changed.
Well,
like
that's
how
what
they
I was
change
saying.
words and how they
I
change.
didn't realize that Red Band will use actual audio from the film, giving you more of an accurate representation of what you're getting into. So, like, there was more cussing in it. It was more lewd and crude. So, which is exactly it. This is not a film where you're going to go and sit and watch a fun, happy, like, teddy bear version G interact in a world. Like, this is going to be pretty crude. So I don't know that I have very many questions because it seems pretty cut and dry. But
what about it seems cut and dry to you? Like when you say it seems cut and dry.
Okay, so for me, that means that this movie is geared towards a specific audience, which are going to really enjoy, like, Adam Sandler type.
John says, me. It's geared towards me.
Just wants to have a silly laugh about, I don't even want to describe the scene that I'm thinking of.
So here's the thing.
I don't
here's
know
what
how uncomfortable it
No,
would
no,
make
no.
people.
I understand. Here's the thing. If you know anything about Seth MacFarlane, I think you already understand that. Like, the guy who made this is what he does.
It's like taking poop jokes to the next level.
Right. And not just poop jokes.
No, it's bodily
all
stuff.
sorts of inappropriate jokes.
Anything that's inappropriate with the body, we're going there probably.
So I guess my question then is for you, Aaron, because you saw it last night. If I enjoy Family Guy and Seth MacFarlane's sort of lower brow humor, will I enjoy Ted 2 as much as the original?
That's a
good question.
That's a great question, and that brings me to my exact, like, the center of my thoughts on this movie, which is I'm not sure. I know if you don't like Seth MacFarlane, you won't like it. And here's the thing about
obviously.
But here's the thing about the first Ted. I kind of liked the first Ted, and I don't generally like Seth MacFarlane movies. So I thought there was a heart to it that he showed in the first Ted that was something I hadn't seen in any of his other properties.
Yeah.
That is missing from Ted 2. So it goes back to, Family Guy style, what was the West one that came out? A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Yeah.
It feels like those movies, So, and here's the thing. I was watching it in about a half-full theater.
Ted 2?
Ted 2. And I'm assuming those are people who like Seth MacFarlane and, want to be there.
Or they want to escape their family because it's summer?
I'd say 2 out of every 3 jokes, crickets. Like,
really?
Yeah, just dead silence, which is even more awkward when the filmmaker gives pause for the laughs. There are those
Insert
spaces.
laughter here.
Yeah, and so there's just 1 or 2 seconds of just a silent theater, and when you're in a half full theater, it's even more awkward and weird. So I'm not sure. I wonder if some of that stuff is even drawing, starting to play out even with the fans of the style and the director. I don't know because that's not me, so I can't assess it that way as well as probably you could. But
I will tell you this. If you paid me money, I would go see this movie. So, because it's not like it's going to be so offensive to my soul that I wouldn't go see it, but I also would not waste my time or my money to go see
something that you knew.
Something that I know is like a couple of cheap laughs. I'm not invested in the people. I didn't even see the first one.
Right.
But I'm always willing to hear, like, okay, was there a heart to the story? Is there something there that maybe I would enjoy? So if like a friend said, Danae, you would love Ted 2. I would go in and then we would have an awkward conversation afterwards because I will tell you in the past, someone had said, Danae, you're going to love Paul Blart Mall Cop. And I didn't at all. And so it was like afterwards I was like, okay, so why did you think I was gonna
I don't
like
necessarily like either of those movies, but just because I know there are Seth MacFarlane fans, including probably John, screaming, not the same thing. Like Paul Blart Mall Cop and Seth MacFarlane movies are 2 very different type of movies.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're like
Is it
the
bad
same.
that I enjoyed both of those?
No, it is not bad.
This is what I tell people.
Sometimes I like watching like a really simple comedy that just doesn't have any substance to it. Especially when they're not really mean-spirited. Like, I just saw The Wedding Ringer recently on DVD, and I was like, this is trash. This was just, like, not very wholesome. It wasn't very fun. Every character was sort of a jerk. Whereas, like, I feel like Ted and even Paul Blart Mall Cop has like some redeeming qualities to the main characters. They're not.
I thought Ted 2 was
they're
pretty.
decent.
I thought Ted 2 was pretty mean, actually. Though I thought a lot of the humor was
like
a lot of degrading kind of humor.
And that could be a reason why I don't like it as much as the original. But
that's true.
It's from the trailers that I saw, the Red Band and otherwise. It looked like more of the same, for better or worse, and it looked like Seth's trademark sort of foul-mouthed pop referential humor.
Oh,
and
now
to me, I was like, yeah, I could have fun with that. I don't know that I'm going to spend anything more than matinee to see it, but it looked like I'd have a good time.
Here's what I do like about Seth MacFarlane, and then I think we'll close this out. I love his pop culture references. I think he is one of the most clever pop cultural, kind of people. The way he uses pop culture in his movies is really, really smart.
There's a part in the trailer. I just said a moment ago I didn't want to describe it because I didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. So it's just after this really uncomfortable visual experience, the main character is falling over because he slipped in something, and the bear says, "I'm going to take a picture and then I'm going to post it #Ugh Monday." Mm-hmm. That's a good pop culture reference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Grr Monday. So I thought that was really clever, and that I did like about
he
about
is really, really good at that.
Cool.
That's what I'm willing to give, to the film is that stuff is really, really good. I love that the BDG in the comments just summed up Ted 2. He says, "Dirty old bear fights to be recognized as a dirty old man."
That is so true and accurate. Well done. So do we want to go on to the endorsement end?
I think
we could probably do it in about a minute.
Do it quickly?
Yeah.
Do it quickly? All right. So what we're going to do here at the end is each of us are going to go around and just talk about one thing in pop culture that we want to kind of get out there. Danae, we'll start with you.
So I was able to watch the E3 conference, specifically the PlayStation Sony conference, and there's a video up on YouTube from Flick Freaks.
Mm-hmm. Who's our good friend here in town who does, movie reviews. He does a lot of reaction videos.
He does reaction videos, and he has interviews with people, etc. He invited me to come and be on his channel. So we sat down for an hour and a half and watched the E3 conference. It's the first time I've done that. So I was able to kind of get a preview of a lot of fun video games coming out for PlayStation. So I've been kind of geeking out about researching different ones that I think I might enjoy. So if you like video games and you want to see that, you can search on Flick Freaks. He just crossed 100,000 views on the shorter clip of him reacting.
His reaction to the Final Fantasy VII news is hilarious.
Fantasy VII is going to be remade. So that was a really fun experience. I just wanted to kind of talk about that. Jonathan, what about you? What would you endorse? That you're into?
What are the boundaries of my endorsements?
Well, you mentioned Assassin's Creed, that you've been into that, just pretty much anything that you're kind of geeking out about.
Anything in pop culture you just want people to know about.
I mean, it's silly because the game's been out for 9 years, but I just started playing the Assassin's Creed series, and I started and finished the first game in a week. I started and I'm about to finish the second game in my second week, and it's been really fantastic to go back and reconnect with these long gaming marathons I used to have when I was a teen. And then more importantly, that feeling we get, when we're experiencing a good movie or a book or a video game that we love so much, we don't want it to end.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in that right now where it's oh, this game is so fantastic. I hope it never ends. And then I think to myself, it doesn't have to, because there's 7 sequels I have to catch up on. So as great as this game is, I know that I have Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and Revelations and then 3 and Black Flag and all these other titles down the road with new titles still yet to come. So for someone who is willing to wait 10 years to play a best game of the year, it can be very rewarding. So if you haven't played a video game from 2007 yet, I would not put it off any longer. Go for it.
Go for it. Jump in.
For whatever reason, I sort of was very, very patient. I had no inclination to pick it up, and now I'm sort of mad that I didn't pick it up earlier. I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Aaron, what about you? What would you endorse here in the last couple seconds of the podcast?
Similarly, I just saw a TV show that's been out for a while that I would recommend. I think I've talked about this actually on the show before, but it's called Gallivant. And I don't think I mentioned it on SiftPop before, but it is a musical. It's kind of like Monty Python, but it's all musical. So it's like that.
All right.
So the songs are really clever, really funny, but it's got that quirky, tongue-in-cheek sense of humor in the medieval times. And I just thought they did a really, really good job putting it together. And I thought the actors were wonderful. They had that hamminess to them that was perfect, for what they were trying to do. And it's only 8 episodes long, and each episode is 20 minutes. So it's a cheap investment. I
love those.
Yeah.
I love movies and shows that I can finish in a week. Those are great.
So here we find ourselves at the very end of our podcast, and as mentioned earlier, we are going to be lingering around here at the end for a little outtake of conversation so that the Geek and our Critic can go crazy on their list fandom, and I will be doing, just live conversation about what I'm experiencing, which will be fun. So thank you guys so much for tuning into an episode of SiftPop with the Critic, the Geek, and the Girl.
If you want to find us, you can find us at aaronanddanae.com. Any of the links that, to stuff we do is there, including our radio show and all that kind of stuff. And we'd love to connect with you there. Again, you can find us at Patreon if you'd like to support us. And again, we'll have that clip we'll put up on Patreon this month as one of the exclusives that you get, there at the Patreon page.
And just a reminder, if you love SiftPop and you want to subscribe specifically just to that podcast, you can actually search in iTunes and Stitcher now for SiftPop and download just these pop culture podcasts. And please, if you do that, please consider going ahead and rating and subscribing so that people know kind of what's going on from your perspective, the fans' perspective.
Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next Tuesday at noon.